do you think people need God more?
People do need God more.
Okay.
I would say. Like the situation of this planet right now, it's been rough. I mean, they have mankind have gone through a lot of things.
Yeah.
And
the dark ages of
the dark ages, the good ages, everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't consider there is more to it.
Yeah.
They don't think in the deeper level, like they don't broaden up their mindset about like even seeking God.
Yeah.
Or like even knowing that there is like a supernatural being other than the humans.
Yeah.
That created us and everything.
Yeah.
But I would say, God, definitely the mankind needs God more than ever. Like in every situation, you need God. If God is not there, what you're just like a mortal being.
Hey Angela, how's it going?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing good.
I'm doing good too. Thank you so much for making the time to do this today. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Before we get started, if you want to let the people know who you are, what you do, any likes and dislikes in personal life, future aspirations, anything and everything you're comfortable sharing about yourself.
Should I?
Either way, you can look there, you can face to face.
Hi everybody, my name is Angela George. I am from India. I'm a junior here in UCO. I think a fun fact about me that I can speak 5 languages and I can play 2 instruments. Yeah.
Cool. What are the 5 instruments?
2 instruments.
Oh, 2 instruments. Sorry, 5 languages, 2 instruments.
Yeah.
What are the 5 languages, rather?
5 languages would be Hindi, Punjabi, Malayalam, a little bit of Kannada. A little bit of Kannada.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit of Kannada.
Okay.
And now Spanish.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to look at the camera throughout. It could just be us talking. But how did you learn Kannada? I'm just curious.
So when it's been a long time. It's about 6 years now. When I've been back to India and when I was in India, we went to Kerala for my vacation, for my summer vacation, and we visited Mysore.
Okay.
Yeah, and we stayed there for I think 7 to 8 days, and I picked up some of the Kannada from there.
I see.
So I'm not like a pro, but I can speak a little bit.
You know some of the words that are involved.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Understood. What is it like as a South Indian living in Punjab, of all places?
That's a good question. I sometimes, mostly, I feel like I have identity crisis because when my North Indian friends tells me, oh, where are you from? Or like anybody from North India asks me, where am I from? I say, oh, I'm from the South India. And when I go to South India, I'm not South Indian enough for them. So they tell me, oh, you're North Indian. So like I've been like it's in my heart. Like every time I go to South India, everybody's like, oh, you're North Indian. Or when I go back to North India, I'm South Indian for them. Yeah. So it's a mix of both. I get to share the best of both worlds, but also the worst part of them too. It's a roller coaster, I would say.
I know. I mean, I'd like to assume that this misconception has gone down a little, but I know in the past, a lot of the times when you would say you're from the South, in the North, the direct assumption was, oh, you're from Madras, or you're a Madrasi. Have you seen that happen?
I have. It's still there.
It's still there?
But it has gone down a little bit, I would say, but not a lot. Everybody is like, if you're South Indian or like your parents are from South India, they were like, oh, so you're from Madras or you're from Tamil Nadu.
Right.
Not like any other states in South India. It's like there's more states than you would imagine.
Right. I think people know the cities, right? Because they'll know Bangalore or they'll know Chennai or they'll know Kochi.
Yeah.
But they don't know the states.
I know.
Like Karnataka or Kerala or Andhra or Telangana and so on and so forth. For a second there, I was like, wait, what other states are in the South? I forgot too. Yeah, I forgot too. So, it's because I think in some sense, with like us being from 2 different parts of the same country, because of how different the lifestyle is,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's sort of easy to be sort of poles apart, even though we're from the same country.
Yeah.
Kind of like if it is over here, right?
Mhm.
Like if you meet someone in New York versus you meet someone in Oklahoma, two
Two
very different
Yeah.
type of people. Maybe that's same for every other country. I don't know, but yeah, it's just something interesting to
Yeah.
think about.
I know.
But yeah, what brought you here to UCO?
So when I graduated high school, I wanted to go somewhere except Canada.
I see.
Look,
Canada.
Canada. That's what all the Punjabis call it.
Yeah.
Like my parents wanted me to go to Canada too.
Right.
They had like they didn't tell me, but they wanted me to.
Mm.
So like every other Punjabi kid goes to Canada
Right.
to settle down after high school and everything.
Yeah.
They wanted me to, but I felt like Canada was too overrated. And everybody used to go there like, why am I the person who's following everybody?
Right.
And I wanted to go somewhere different
I
than
see.
Canada. So I was like, maybe US might be the next best option for me. But I knew like it's not going to be easy as Canada, and it gets its own struggles too.
Sure.
But I randomly applied to like some of the universities. But UC was much cheaper than any other else.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me just put on an application. Let's see how it goes. But I started my college in India for about 3 months. It was after the COVID hit and everything. So it was all online. So I didn't get to meet my friends, but I saw them like online and everything. But I got acceptance from UCO. So it's like, okay, good scholarship, good acceptance. And like, I don't know that state there very well.
Yeah.
It's kind of new. Like, cause whenever I imagine the US, it's like, oh, New York, California,
Right.
or like Texas, that's all.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma, was like, oh, it's near to Texas. Okay, we might have a chance there.
Right.
So I was like, let's go for it. We'll see how this goes. And because I think at that time I didn't have my vaccination done and everything. I did most of it, but a lot of was like left out too. So I blamed my parents for that. Like, why didn't you get me vaccinated for that? Yeah, I blame them a lot. But yeah, I came here before I came here for my visa interview and everything. When I went for my visa interview, it was a lot different than I thought, because I was the only person who was was younger than anybody else. Everybody else was going for their masters.
Right.
And especially in the Delhi embassy, it was really crowded, and I was a very shy kid. I could not even speak to people, and my dad was there with me, but still like I had to go to the officers by myself.
Right.
So it was a difficult task, but I just prayed, and I was like, God, if you want me to go, you will let me go. But if you don't want me to, it's your plan. I can't tell you anything. So I just went by faith and everything. And a lot of people in front of me got rejected. So it was like, oh no, oh shit, so it really degraded my confidence a lot.
Sure.
So I was like, Lord, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when my turn came, I did the interview and everything. He didn't even look at me. The officer didn't even look at me.
Really?
Yeah, he was just looking at his computer the whole time.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, I don't know how this goes. But I was smiling. I was nervous too.
Right.
Yeah, I was about to pee my pants, but I think I can put on a face that I'm not nervous, but I'm internally very nervous.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I did that, and he kept my passport, and I was like, okay. Wow. Okay, I think
That's
I got
your answer.
it. Yeah. I got my answer. I was about to jump there, but never mind. I saw some officers there. They're like, "Oh, this is the way." Because I was so I was blanked. I was blanked. I was like, I don't know what happened right now. So I when I saw my dad, and I was like, no, I did not get it. I did not get it. And then he saw my documents and everything. where's your passport? Like, oh, he kept it. Then he was like screaming in joy and everything. And we pranked my mom too on the call. Nice. She was like, oh, why didn't they get your visa and everything? And we pranked her a lot too. Right. But I think after that day, my life a lot changed. Sure. And I felt like I have to do things by myself now. Right. My parents would not be there because I was a pampered child in my house too. As an older kid, I know it's not the best scenario to be like pampered. It's usually the younger kids who are pampered. But my parents were so protective about me and my sister that they did not let us do like anything else outside the house and everything. I mean, I would not say they were conservative, but they were very protecting about us. So after I came here, I still remember my dad just writing down like in a piece of paper what I need to do before I go to the airport, or like what steps do I need to do. I still have that paper with me just for all the memories that he did. And like after I left from the airport and everything, and my mom was like blaming I still remember my mom was blaming me. Why did you leave that kid so early? She's just 18. She doesn't know how to.
Because she got to the airport early?
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
And look, after I passed immigration and everything, because we have to go to Delhi. Right. From Punjab to Delhi to...
so you all drove to Delhi and then... Okay.
Yeah, we all drove to Delhi. My mom got a little more emotional and started blaming my dad. It's like, why did you leave that kid? She's just 18. She doesn't know how the world works and everything. And I'm like here chilling, just doing my thing and catching flights and everything. Right. But when I came here, like I realized there's more to it. Like there's because I didn't make any friends that much my first semester. I would just say blankly, did not even make friends.
You kept to yourself?
Yeah. I was kind of scared to like even talk to people because I was that shy. But after I got my job and everything, my first on-campus job and everything, I opened up to people, and it was a front desk job, so I had to talk to people.
Right. You're put in the spot. You have no other choice.
No other choice. So, I mean, I made mistakes. I learned from it. Had a lot of conversation with people, made friends, and I'm at a better place now.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because when you were talking about the story of you standing in front of the officers who were going to interview you at the embassy, I had a similar experience where someone got rejected in front of me too. Oh. And I was like, oh, shit, how's this going to go? But no, knock on wood, it all worked out. So there's that. Yeah. But he said something funny that I want to explore a little. Why is Canada overrated?
Canada, I mean, I think Canada is like, it's every North Indian kid's dream to go to Canada. Because I don't know why it is like that. And like, especially all the Punjabi, all my friends, they are in Canada right now. They have like, so like there are some programs in India that you can do like 2 years in India and 2 years in Canada.
I see.
So my dad was supposed to enroll me for that program. But I was like, I better be a chance to go to US than Canada right now. And like I hated Canada that much. I no hate to Canada. I mean, it's
all of the Canadian people.
Yeah, the Canadian people, like everybody going there. So it was like, I want to do something different than what everybody is following or like doing and everything. Yeah. So yeah, I think Canada is kind of overrated, and everybody, like mostly Punjabis, they go there and like they settle down and everything. It's easier for them to like settle down. So I don't know why I chose the difficult part, but I wanted to be a change and in the society. Yeah.
Interesting. I found it kind of interesting also because I think in the South, we probably think the complete opposite, and that the US, not overrated necessarily, but more people want to go to the US than they would to Canada. Yeah. Especially like, and I mean, a large demographic of our Indian students here and in other universities in the US are from the South, from Andhra Pradesh or Telangana and those states, right? So I feel like it's sort of a flip there as well. In the North, people prefer Canada more. in the South, people might prefer to go to the US more often. No. But then, again, who's to say? Everybody makes their own choices. There are some people from North India who are here. There are some people from South India who are in Canada. So it goes both ways. It goes both ways. The other thing you kind of mentioned that I want to explore is you mentioned that your parents weren't conservative, but they were more protective. What do you think is the difference between the two?
I think as a South Indian living in North India, I mean, my mom is not at all like she was born and brought up in North India, so she has more North Indian side to it. And my dad was brought up in South India, but he moved to North India for work and everything.
I see.
But I've seen like a lot of my friends and like my dad's friends, or like who are South Indians, they're more conservative in like any aspect with their kids.
I see.
Like they would not let them out, or like do not talk to boys, or like anything like that. And I think my parents were kind of different in that, and they had a broader perspective about like everything.
They were more open-minded about it.
They were more open-minded, and but the protectiveness in them, like I have to like protect my daughters, and like because they see stuff happening outside of the house, and they wanted to protect us, and they felt like we could not do anything without them and everything. So yeah, I would say they were protective but not conservative.
Okay, gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. What's it been like in Oklahoma?
Oklahoma, that's a good question. Oklahoma is, I would say, like I've visited more states in the US, but every time I come back to Oklahoma, it's home now. It's a second home now. And I want to come back here to just like relax and stuff. But Oklahoma, it's been good. I like the weather here too. But it can be challenging sometimes because you don't get everything that a bigger city would have here. Right. Like Texas or like Dallas or anything. But I would say it's much more peaceful here. And it's not
definitely quieter.
Yeah, it's quieter, and you don't see much people here. You see more cattle and cows here.
If you go deeper into the outskirts of the city, for sure.
Yeah, but it's more peaceful than like any other city. But I would like to move after I graduate from here. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What would be your ideal state to move to?
I actually don't know. I would I mean, if the opportunity opens, I would love to go to Dallas, but at the same time, there's a lot of people there. It's more traffic. Everything comes at once. But I think Dallas would be my top priority. Dallas and like Chicago would be my top priority here. Yeah, but we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
The one thing that I feel like I resonate a lot with, kind of like what you said, is it's quiet over here. It's peaceful over here. But then we both come from, I guess, places you could say that are much more busier. Do you, like, after living here for a little while, do you prefer the busyness of India or like the more quiet of Oklahoma?
I mean, after coming here, I was like, okay, you can be quieter too.
Right.
Yeah, because I didn't have much perspective like about cities being more quieter, like more peaceful. But I would prefer the business a little bit more than the quieter. I mean, I would love to be in a city like after I retire, to be like, I need my peace. I need more quiet and not like the hustle bustle of a city.
Yeah.
But I would love to work in a city with like it's more busier.
Sure.
But I know it comes with the pros and cons and everything.
Everything does.
Yeah.
Everything does. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would prefer more city life when I'm working. But I would prefer more peaceful and like quieter places when I'm retiring or anything.
Fair. I mean, I guess that's the typical answer. I mean, no, nothing wrong with that. I'm not sort of trying to sound judgmental that way. It's a typical answer because I think in the age that we live in, there's more opportunities in bigger cities versus smaller cities. So it makes sense because you want the most opportunities to earn and to make a living and to build your life. And then once you've sort of built your life, once you sort of enter the twilight of your life, if you will, it just makes sense to go into a more secluded area where it's quiet, you can be peaceful,
Yeah.
you can live off of what you've made and all that kind of stuff. So no, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. You mentioned earlier about the fact that like, you know, you just sort of let the decision of the interviewer at the embassy in God's hands and like faith and so on. Talk to me about the influence of faith in your life, starting with, I guess, how early you were sort of in that direction.
As being a pastor's kid my whole life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my parents are pastors, they're missionaries. Like I've grown up in a home like that. But for me as a person, I would only like see faith as like you need to do like your chores, you need to like read the Bible, you need to pray every day. It's like, so like when I was growing up, I think around like the age of 10 or 11, we had this like rule in our house that first thing in the morning when you wake up, you need to pray, you need to read the Bible, and you need to brush your teeth. That's like
in that order?
Yeah, in that order. So like faith for me and like religion for me was always like a chore to me growing up, because I see how my parents were and like, but I never explored my faith on my own. It was just brought upon me. But like when COVID hit and everything happened, everybody was at home and life got a little less busy than usual and everything was online. I started like exploring like how God wants me to live. And I started to pick up the Bible for my own sake, not to like please my parents, because I used to do it to please my parents.
Right.
But now, like,
sort of be an obedient child in a sense.
Yeah. But like after COVID hit, I started to explore the Bible and started to like pray about it. And like started like a prayer channel with my friends and everybody. And it was like,
what do you mean by prayer channel?
It was like a prayer broadcast. We used to like call each other, like ad calls or like on Zoom calls and everything.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so we did that, and that jumped up my faith a lot. And like seeing like people like dying and everything in COVID, it really hit me. It's like there's more than life. Like there's more than like just after death. There's more than after death. There is a purpose to life also.
Right.
So after that, I was like, oh, you got to do something about your faith and everything. And I started to explore and asked my dad a lot of questions. He gave me a lot of answers too. And like I started reading the scripture more than usual and starting praying more and like reaching out to people who can help me, like who are on the same path as me. Because it's not easier in like, especially in India, if you're a Christian family, you don't have much Christian friends there.
Around where you live?
Around where I live. I mean, there were like people around me who were Christians or like family, friends and everybody. But like around the same age and the same like mindset, it would be different.
Right, because an older person looks at it very differently versus someone your age. Makes sense.
Yeah, it was really difficult. But I think after that, after COVID hit, my life changed. And I took baptism before the COVID, so I didn't realize, because
what is baptism? I'm going to interrupt you there. What is baptism?
Baptism is when you commit to Christ.
Okay.
It's like it's kind of like an engagement to Christ, and you're in the water and
you get baptized.
That's like a whole situation.
Okay.
But I did that before I got into really faith, because
I see.
Because everybody was doing baptism and my friends were doing it, so I wanted to do it too. And I didn't realize the actual meaning behind it.
I see.
So I just did it because everybody else was doing.
Right.
So and after that, like after the baptism and everything, but really in the COVID times, that's when I really got to know God, like personally, and I experienced stuff that I would not experience myself. And my dad used to like host this 72 hours nonstop prayer at our house and at our church too. We used to like pray for 72 hours. Sometimes we used to fast for a longer period of time. But after that, I think that really like opened up my mind. It's like not focusing on the worldly stuff and more like on the spiritual level.
Sure.
And I think after that, it just opened my mind. I loved God than usual, and like I would like talk to him like a friend,
right?
A friend that I cannot see but I can feel. So yeah, I think after COVID and everything happened, like something tragic would happen in my life to explore God. So it is kind of like, oh, you could not experience God before, but I would say like it's just God's timing. Yeah, I would not say like a person or like, I mean, a person can change your life also, but something would need to happen in your life for you to know God. And it's all God's planning.
And everybody's journey is very unique that way, right?
Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah, because I mean, based on what you just said, like I think everybody's journey is quite unique to where sometimes it's a person's influence, sometimes it's just a situational influence of like the things happening around you. And I think COVID, in some sense, maybe I'm generalizing more than I should be over here, but part of me does feel like that was a phase of time when people did lean into their faith a little more, did lean into things like spirituality and so on. Because for me too, I can relate to you in that sense, because during COVID was when I think I started understanding God and religion a little more than what I knew at that point, because that's when I picked up the Bhagavad Gita and started reading it and sort of understanding things. And I still would like to believe that there's a lot more for me to learn on that journey, if you will. But there was definitely a time when, I picked that up. So you definitely can understand. I guess what I'm trying to say is I can relate to the fact that you've lived life to a certain point where it's just a chore, but then you get to a point where you realize that it's more than just a chore, because at that point you're just doing it because you're told to do it.
Yeah.
Once you've sort of realized it for yourself, you're doing it because you realize how important it is to you, and you're taking your own path with it.
Definitely.
Because I think similar to you, but not in the sense of growing up in a family with pastors as parents. But we were, I would say, for the lack of a better word, quite religiously active at home. We would sing bhajans and all that sort of stuff every day as a kid. But I think I understood the importance of it much more later on. I'm curious, what are the 72-hour prayers like? Is it that everybody stays awake for 72 hours? Or do people
they do take turns.
Okay.
If you're tired, you take turns and everything too. But it's not really brutal that you think.
You don't sleep. Okay.
Yeah. If you want to, you can. It's not a restriction for you.
Right.
But I try to stay awake as much as I can. But I slept for I think 2-3 hours, but then I woke up again, and then it's usually like around.
Sorry, that might be a stupid question, but I was just curious.
No, you're good. But I think it's usually when I've not seen any other church do it, so it was like a new thing for me too. We used to have 72 hours, then we broke it down to 48 hours, so people are not that brutal about it.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience for like a lot of my friends too. And like our church people and everybody, they got to know Christ more in a deeper level.
Sure.
And got to know the Holy Spirit in a deeper level. So it was an eye awakening situation for us. And we still are thankful for that 72-hour prayer, or the 48-hour now it is. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The one thing that I've noticed about Oklahoma a lot since I've been here is people over here are also quite religious.
Yeah.
And generally, I guess, in the environment at UCU over here, since I've been around international students a lot, I notice that students who are quite religiously inclined are very involved with like the religious community over here in some sense. How's the fact?
What do you mean by that?
In the sense that, like, I think, how do I explain this? Maybe it's just a personal realization in some sense, but I feel like because of how people over here are quite actively like involved in church, doing service and all that sort of stuff, I think international students have been able to connect a lot more with people over here that way. Because I know like there's a lot of international students that we know who are involved with churches around and so on. I guess it's not really a question, but more of a thought in the sense that, well, maybe it can be a question now that I think about it. Has the sort of religious inclination of people here been helpful? Because the reason why I wonder that is because I don't know if people, I mean, not to say people in the city don't pray, that's not what I'm trying to get at, but I feel like faith is a huge part of people's lives over here. I don't know if it is so much in cities. Maybe it is. I mean, know.
In cities in here or in
here?
Okay.
Here.
I mean, I do feel like I can relate to people more here than I would be in India. And people are more welcoming of like what you gotta say about your faith.
Sure.
And they incline with us and they want to know what perspective that you have of your faith.
Right.
But I think it's more welcoming than I think in the cities too. Because in cities it's such a hustle bustle.
Right.
And you don't even have time to talk to a person about faith. Like you couldn't even like talk to a person like 101. You need to like schedule everything and every like
we're
all
gonna
that.
meet from 11 to 1
Yeah.
on a Saturday. Yeah.
But I think like they're more open to
having those
your faith.
conversations.
Yeah, about conversation about your faith here more than the city. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just a thought that I had. It's a little undercooked, I guess, but
it's okay.
It's just a thought that I had.
Of course.
But how has that helped you connect with people more over here in some sense?
It has. It did. But like, there's a lot of like faiths over here which I don't align with.
Okay.
There's like other
like divisions within Christianity itself.
There's a lot of divisions of Christianity too.
Right.
So,
like Protestant and Baptist and all that sort of stuff. Right.
Pentecostals, Mormons, everybody.
Right.
Like, but like who are not Christians, they on the outside they think like, oh, if it's a Baptist, they only like have that kind of faith in the whole Christianity. I'm like, nope, there's a lot of divisions, there's a lot of sects to it too. But I think like as a Pentecostal, as a Protestant, I feel like I can relate to more people over here. But in some sense, they don't align. Sometimes it is like some things that don't align with my faith.
Okay.
So I think I don't talk about it that much.
Sure.
And like I draw a line there.
Because you don't want to sort of bring that negative energy to it.
I know. It's not like only the negative energy. It's like I don't want myself to like get into that kind of situation.
I see.
I don't know if I'm making sense, but...
Because are you worried like it could become a heated argument?
It can be.
Okay.
But I just don't want my faith to impact on that.
Like you don't want it to get affected by what someone else thinks about it. Okay.
That too. And like if I get into that, like I can have a conversation with you and everything. That is totally fine.
Right.
I want to have a conversation with you, but in some ways, if I want to protect my faith and my peace with God, I need to like draw lines with people.
Sure.
And I will listen to whatever you gotta say. I will totally listen to it. But I want to protect my own faith too, so I will draw the line over there, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding correctly, I'm just going to rephrase what you said. You're open to have conversations to where you can widen your understanding, but I guess you draw a line somewhere in terms of, I guess, how involved you are with it. or let me try and state that as a form of an example.
Yeah.
During the summer, I met a couple of Mormon guys, and I was just chatting with them because I was intrigued. I know generally when you see Mormons, and for those of you who don't know, that is another division within Christianity that has, hate to use this word, but has a bit of a cultish vibe to it, or at least that's what people generally think over here in the US. Because whenever I've heard, like, whenever you talk about Mormons, people are like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, so you generally see a lot of Mormons on campus. They're usually walking around, talking to people and so on. So I was just intrigued, and I spoke to a couple of people. I hung out with them a few times, and we would talk about stuff about religion and so on. But in my head, I had mentally drawn a line of, okay, I'm open to talking about all of this, but we're not talking to a level where you're trying to get me to change.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, definitely you phrased it much better than I did.
No, it's okay. Because I was trying to understand, because I think for me too, I'm quite curious about like how people see religion and see faith and so on, which is why I'm asking these questions. And I think sometimes we run away from having these conversations because they can be quite difficult, right? And
it is kind of awkward too.
It is awkward. It is difficult. It is uncomfortable in a lot of ways because in some sense it can feel like people are questioning you and your faith. Because I've had that experience as well, where someone like questioned my faith and like my belief in God. And at that point, I think it was a fair question only because I don't think I believed it enough. And this was when I was 18, when I was here for the first, like in my first year that I was here. And my faith has definitely developed much more since then. But yeah, I like...
Glad to hear that.
Thank you. But yeah, glad in that sense, it sort of like helps to... These conversations help open your mind up a little. But I guess you set that line to where you're like, okay, I'm here to listen, but I know what works for me and I'm not going to change that just because someone says so.
Yeah, definitely that.
Yeah. Because with these conversations, I think the other thing I've realized, and to go back to that other example I mentioned of like in 17?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Ages ago, yeah. It's going to be 8 years since I've been here in December. But that person asked me, I forget what the specific question was, but it was something about, it connected to how much I believed in God or something like that. And I think at that point, I'd had a lot of personal experiences in life that, for the lack of a better word, showed me that God existed, if you will.
Okay.
We can talk about this off camera if you're interested. But I don't think I believed enough, even though I knew that God existed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I realized that like those conversations and those questions, in some sense, directly or indirectly, have helped me in some sense get a little deeper and understand my own faith in God and so on. And I think having those conversations can be important in a sense that it can help you go deeper into your own beliefs. Because when you're not challenged in a certain way, I think it's very easy to just be like, oh, the scripture says this, that's why I agree with it. But sometimes you don't believe it enough. Like, you know it, but you don't believe it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you have those conversations and ask those questions, or when someone else asks you those questions, it gives you some food for thought to where you're like, okay, why is that? Like, let me think about it. Let me explore. And then in some sense, it deepens your faith in what you believe. Does that make sense?
That makes a whole sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I feel you.
Yeah. Without like getting into specifics, I guess, and you can choose how much specific you want to get with this. I think a lot of the times there can be this misconception of, oh, like if you're a young person who's very religious and so on, like you're probably just, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's influenced by people? Or I don't know.
Yeah, influenced in a sense, that you don't truly believe it and all that kind of stuff. Like there is that sense that I think people around our age might generally have of other religious, like other people their age who are more religious. So like, oh yeah, your parents brought you up that way, so you're like just
Yeah, you're just immature about it, but you don't know like what
you don't know, right? Yeah.
You're just going whatever people are telling you.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, yeah, I do get a lot of people like who are non-Christians. They tell me like, oh, you have grown up in a household where Christianity is like the top priority,
right.
God is top priority, and your parents are pastors, and you are like in that like situation like 24/7. So that is why you've been influenced to like explore your faith more and like not to touch any other faith or anything. But I feel like I have seen enough of other faiths too, and personally, I decided it is totally a personal choice. I know it can be influenced by my parents a little bit. I ask them questions like in a spiritual perspective too, and they tell me answers and everything. And I to this day I still ask my dad like, what do you think about this faith? What do you think, like, if anything controversies happen, I ask him first, and he gives me like a straight up answer too. Sometimes it can be like a very time consuming when I'm talking to him about faith and everything. But I think it can look like I've been influenced by them, but it is totally not.
Because you've been on that journey yourself to understand it for yourself.
Yeah, I've been in that mindset, and I think I've been mature about it and see God not in like a childish way, but like as an adult and like experience him more than ever.
Yeah. Was it more people who were not of your faith or people who were not religious who were asking you those questions?
Not of my faith, mostly.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because you can share your opinion on what you think about what I'm about to say. I think generally that faith can be a huge guiding, faith as in like a religion, can be a huge guiding principle for a lot of people. And the way I see it personally, I don't necessarily see it as like a hierarchy of, oh, this one's better than the other one, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody has their own journey with that. On their own paths. The way I kind of see it as like parallel paths all leading to the same thing.
Yeah.
But the way we see it is just different.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think in the world that we live in, and a lot of this is influenced by a lot of other things, like maybe we don't need to get into that. But I think there's very much a sort of tussle of, oh, we're better. Oh no, you are, you suck. I'm better.
Yeah. They're like fighting against each other. There's like one God, and you're fighting over that.
Exactly. Like, whose God is the best God?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I've seen like, because I've been growing up in North India. I see a lot of Hindus and like Sikhs too. They still have that
animosity between each other in the sense.
They still like fight about God a lot, and they're like, no, my God is better. My God is better. And then there's Christian. They're like, oh, we know our God. I'm not saying like our God, like anything is better or anything.
Right.
Like,
I understand.
Yeah. If you're experiencing God, then you need to explore your faith by yourself.
Right.
And like
it's a personal journey.
It's a personal journey. Anybody, I mean, people can be influential to you.
Sure.
But it's your own.
Yeah.
You need to have that conversation with God by yourself, not a person. It's like a relationship with God. I would say like every time I hear somebody say religion, it's like that is kind of like a label to it, and it comes with a lot of boundaries with God and like everything. But I feel like if you have a good relationship with God, religion does not play along with it. Yeah, a lot of times.
I see what you mean.
So
yeah, because in a lot of ways, the word, like you said, like the word religion is like, it separates the different belief systems that exist, if you will.
Yeah.
And the other thing that, this is a thought, so maybe might be undercooked. If you've not had a personal journey, in a sense. And again, like, I'm not trying to say like the earlier the better and all that kind of sense. Everybody has that journey or encounters that journey at their own time and their own speed.
Yeah.
So like, it's not necessarily a question of who's better for experiencing it sooner or not, whatnot. But I think in some sense, until that point, if you are a religious person, so to speak, more likely than not, it's just influence and, like, for the lack of a better word, brainwashing in some sense. Because, and not in like a brainwashing like people talk about in other aspects, but you sort of, kind of to go back to a previous question, right? Like, it's sort of like you've been around that, so that's all you believe. But then you've not experienced it for yourself. So I think there's that separation that people need to realize as well, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
There's this other, and I think I've asked this question to everybody whom I've had this type of conversation with on the podcast. So people who've listened to it might probably be like, oh, the same question again. But I'm curious to explore this because everybody, I think, thinks of it differently. I was listening to a podcast, and this was probably back in 2020 or 2021, and they were talking about how people are living out an interpretation or their interpretation of religion or faith. I'll explain that a little further. I think, so for example, like if I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita, what I'm understanding from it is going to be influenced a lot by my personal experiences and what I've seen leading up to that point. And that will essentially connect to how I develop my understanding of the things that I read. But that, in essence, would mean that I'm not sticking to what the book says. I'm making something out of it that applies to me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it really makes sense.
So do you think in that case that, and again, I guess you could make that separation too, or like a matter of perspective and angle of what angle you see it from. Is it more that we all live our own interpretations of religion and faith, or is it more that it's a personal journey, so we experience it and explore it differently? Excuse me.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, not an original question, I would say. It is a question from a podcast that I heard, and I was like, it was like that light bulb moment of, whoa.
Yeah.
And
think about that now.
Right, you've got to think about that. It wasn't a religious podcast, but I think they were taking questions from someone who had sent them a question or whatever it was. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, any thoughts on that?
I would say it is a personal experience with God, and everybody has a different aspect, like aspect of God, and everybody thinks of God in a different way.
Right.
And I know He's like one supernatural being.
Yeah, it's a higher power.
It's a higher power. You can't feel Him. You cannot see Him though.
Yeah.
But definitely, it's a personal journey.
Yeah.
And how your relationship with God is really how you think of God is, if that makes sense. And really, it's really on your personal journey. I mean, religions, like other religion, every other faith can impact your relationship with how are you with God. Right,
or how you see God.
Yeah, how you see God and everything. I mean, because if a non-believer or an atheist would come to church or go to a temple or anything, he would have that perspective of God.
Right.
And if he goes to like another, like if he goes to a mosque or anything else, he would have that perspective of God.
Yeah.
But religion does impact how they see God.
Yeah.
But in a deep, sorry, you're good. But in a deeper level, I would say it is their personal journey and how they see God and how they interpret God.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So in some sense, it is, if you look at it from that angle, an interpretation, but in a lot of ways, it's a personal journey that you're taking. So it's not necessarily a knock on religion specifically, but it's more so just the difference that comes around as a product of our experience.
Yeah.
In a sense. How do you see your faith developing as you grow older? Or I guess the other way to phrase that question, how would you like to develop your faith as you grow older?
I mean, I've been seeing development in my faith a lot since after the COVID situation.
Sure.
I started trusting God more than anything else, and I started to tell him more stuff than I would tell of my best friend or like my parents or anybody else. Because I know he is there for me always, and he will listen to me, and he wants me to talk to him more than I would talk to a man or like anybody else.
Yeah.
So I think in that perspective, like how my relationship is with God, really impacts how I see the world too.
Right.
Like if I love God, I would love people. If I am very respectful to God, I like in that sense I would respect people and people more, and I would like do better things. Or like, because you've been influenced by God, so like it comes with like a chain of like goodness, like more mercy for others, like and more forgiveness to people too.
Yeah.
So I would say it really impacted my life as a person, as my personality to like others, and they see God, like they see God's shining, like God's presence and like anything in that sense. From me, so I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah.
And but it's if like how I treat a person it really shows how you are with God too.
Interesting. Okay.
And like if I'm treating that person like with not a lot of respect, disrespecting that person, or not taking their opinions, or I'm being a bad friend or
being dismissive in a way. Yeah.
That shows like how you are with God, if that makes sense.
Or how you are as an individual in a sense.
Individual sense, and like I think the character of a person really impacts how you are like in your spiritual life too.
I see. Okay. So in the sense that where you are spiritually does affect your character in a sense is what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that like in that I'm still working on a lot of stuff. Not perfect. Nobody is.
Nobody will ever be. Yeah.
But trying to be a better person for other people and show God's love to other people, it's really important, because how he loved us, we should love others too.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. The thing that you said about you talk to God more than you do to other people. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's also a sense of feeling that lack of judgment? Because I think, in a sense, if you look at it, okay, the word judgment or judge can mean different things in this context, I guess. But judgment as in having opinions of you for your actions. I think when you talk to people about something wrong that you might have done, again, depends on the people you're talking to. Because if they're your closest friends, they'll give you honesty. And they'll help you out. Whereas if you're talking to someone else, depends what you might hear from them.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is when you're, in the sense, talking to God, I think you feel that lack of judgment from God.
Yeah, definitely.
While there are consequences for your actions, generally you feel lack of judgment. Is that what you're sort of insinuating in that way?
I mean, it is. I would not lie. It is one of the key points. For me to talk to God, but I would say like it's much easier to talk to God, because he accepts who you are, because he literally created you.
Right.
So he accepts who you are as a person, and he knows like you've made mistakes and you will learn from it or you will not learn from it. He knows like it. Knows you inside out.
Right.
So like for another human being, they have more judgments on you, and they have more opinions in it. I mean, that is totally fine too.
Right. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
Right or wrong doesn't matter. You're entitled to it. But I can not agree. I can disagree or agree.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But like before, like talking to anybody else, I would talk to God first and like tell him, or just yap to him more than I would yap to a person.
Sure.
And sometimes I would blame him too. It's like, why did you do this to me? You could have done this better. And, and God is like, no, I'm doing it. Whatever.
I have my own ways. Yeah.
It's my time.
Yeah.
But for like, after I talk to God, then I talk to a person, then I think sometimes it is kind of like a good ritual to have God first and then talk to people.
Okay.
Because I feel like, personally, I feel like they're more understanding after I talk to God about this.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, okay, I can see this way also in your perspective, or how much you can do better in life, or like could have made better decisions, or anything else. So for me, it's much more easier for me to talk to God than a person first.
I see.
I would talk to a person like if it's my closest friend, or if it's my mom or anybody.
Yeah.
I would talk to them too.
Yeah.
But I would talk to God first, then a man. Yeah.
Right. I have a
I know
lot
it's
of
a lot.
No, it's okay. It's good. I'm glad you sort of explored that, because when you say you feel like people understand you more after you've had that conversation with God, are you saying that in the sense that you feel like you've been able to process your thoughts a little better to where you're able to talk about it in a better way with your friends?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the sense of you being able to pray on it and then feeling like that those shackles of judgment are sort of taken away from you by God? I don't know if I made sense there.
Yeah,
Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say it is both.
Okay.
Yeah, it does give me a lot of time to think about it.
Right.
Before I talk to anybody about that. And like God does impact, like if I pray about it, like God is like, no, you can talk to people about this too, but there'll be a lot less judgment.
Yeah.
And like God makes other people more understanding what I have to say.
Sure.
I feel like that.
Right. That's your experience. Yeah.
And I think like both of the aspects for me to like think over it more and before I talk to people, and God really like making them understand and making myself understand about the whole situation is like, yeah. I don't know if I'm going with that.
No, I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But to sort of maybe add a different angle to that, do you think it could avoid you from being able to have the difficult conversations with people that you need to have? Or do you think that it helps you more to be able to have those difficult conversations with people that you need to have?
I would say it really like softens the situation a little bit for me if I talk to God first. And as I said, like it gives me a little bit more time to even think about the situation.
Right.
And like God is like hovering on me about that situation too.
Yeah.
And I would say this, I don't know. It's really controversial. Sometimes it can be like you cannot like before if you don't like talk to God before you have that conversation with a man or anybody else. For me, it's not much easier for me. So you're like putting a man first, then God.
And when you're saying man, you say human being.
Human being, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I just want to clarify to be sure. I understood. Just want to make sure people understand. Yeah.
So yeah, just for me, I think if I did that, it's like putting a human being over God. So that would not like give me peace also.
Right.
And like even if I did that, after like some time or like in some sense, God will bring me like a sign or like anything like in my life, like, oh, you chose a man over me.
Right.
Yeah, because like in the Bible it says like he would not give his glory to anybody else except him. So like a man or like anything else that like is more attached to you, if you even have like emotional support animal or like a most people have a bottle now, or like a stuffed animal or anything, they would like talk to them more than they would talk. I mean, it really depends on how deeper level you are with God.
Sure.
But if you talk to God first more than a mortal being is kind of like I can see like how you are with God, or like people can tell like how good of a relationship you are with God.
In the sense that I'm trying to make sure I understand. In the sense that your actions or your conversations should be such that it's bringing you closer to God more than it is taking you away from God.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, because I just want to make sure I understood what you said.
Yeah.
I see what you mean, again, in that sort of sense of the spiritual journey that everybody is taking. That is quite a deep thought to have in terms of your actions and how they take you closer to God versus how they take you further away from God. And I think if you think about it, not microscopically, macroscopically, like if you zoom out and think about like every single thing you do, I think you'll realize that, okay, there's A, B, C that I do that helps me get closer to God. There's X, Y, Z, or Z, depending on where you're from. That brings you closer to Him. I say brings you closer or takes you away? Anyway, either way. What I mean to say is there's some actions that take you closer to Him, there's others that take you away from Him. And I think you learn about that more as you sort of deepen your spiritual practice, is what you're getting at, essentially.
Yeah.
I understand that because at the end of the day, I think we're human, and some of these things you won't realize as much until you learn, sort of fall down and get back up.
Yeah. You learn from your experiences.
Exactly. Like, as much as it sucks to fall down, sometimes you have to fall down only to get back up and become a better person.
Definitely.
And probably get closer in your journey to God in a spiritual sense. Excuse me. Because I think a lot of those negative experiences can be an eye-opener for where gaps exist between you and God, if you will. To sort of talk about it in an example sense, I think some recent things that happened in my life, which again, I won't go in detail over here, but made me realize how much fear I live with and how much I could do to deepen my faith and trust a little more. Because, and again, I'm nowhere near to it. There's a lot of work that I have to do, if I'm being brutally honest. But I think that realization in and of itself is sort of that trigger for, think of this when you're thinking of doing something or navigating a situation. Some things might not work out the way you want them to, but maybe that's for the best or for the worst. You don't know. At the end of the day, you do something, you might end up pushing something away that's good for you, or you might end up pushing something away that was bad for you. Either way, I think through falling down that way, I think you'll realize where those gaps exist to where you maybe need to trust God more. Just let go of that sense of control.
Yeah, I feel you.
Because I'm a control freak. I try to control more things than I probably should. And I think this is the realization I've started to have a lot more recently, in that there's only so much I can control. But then again, I think the way I think about it, I think too much, and I'm an overthinker. I'm like, but then if I'm letting go of control, does that mean that I'm not putting in enough effort? Right? Because that can be an opposing thought in a sense.
That could be.
And that's when I sort of have to tell myself, what do you control in that case? You control your effort. So give it your all. Give it 120%. What you don't control is the outcome of your actions in some sense. While your actions do have outcomes and you might know what the outcomes might be, in some sense, you don't know the consequences in a sense of, say, for example, I've used this example too much, so I'll try and think of another example on the fly. But it's like the journey of, wanting to build a business, right? You put in actions, you're doing everything you can, but sometimes things just don't work out. That could mean many different things. It could mean that you need to take a detour, or you need to change something and do something different, and then that will get you closer to where you want to be. But then going in say you're going into a business meeting. This is an example off the fly, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry if it sucks. But
It's okay.
you go into a business meeting, you're trying to close a deal, and you want to close it for $30 million. Money,
that's
unimaginable
a lot of
money,
money.
but yeah, $30 million. But then the person comes back to you, but no, we can only do $10 million.
Oh.
Right? And I think in those cases, it's sort of like, oh, what could I do to make it to 30 and so on and so forth. And maybe you really want this deal to work. So then at that point, it's a choice of, do I take the less money or do I walk away? And
Yeah.
I'm making this very complicated.
I know, it's okay.
What I'm trying to get at is, in those moments, you don't control how someone might react to your actions.
Yeah.
But
It's not under your control.
It's not under your control. You do control, however, how you react to that situation. In that moment, you can choose to walk away, or you can choose to take the deal.
It's up to you.
It's up to you. But again, you don't control what might happen after that.
Yeah.
It's the sense of that duality of knowing that, thinking of marriage in another way. Marriage could end in death. Marriage could end in divorce. Both things are possible.
Yeah.
I
could be happy too.
yeah. No, I mean, in the sense that,
Yeah.
I mean that in the sense that the end point of your marriage, right?
Yeah.
Like in that, from the start to finish, yes, you want it to be happy. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. But my point is that when it ends, marriage generally ends either because you choose to walk away or one of you dies.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't control how it might end directly. Indirectly, your actions will get you there in some sense.
Dang, that was harsh.
No, I mean, generally speaking though, right?
Yeah,
And that's the same for even a romantic relationship that's not gone to marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You can fuck up and you can fuck around and find out, kind of thing. And there's this other phrase, right? I don't know if you've heard this phrase. It's if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so things like that. Like, your actions will determine what ends up coming your way. But in some sense, you also have to realize that when you go into something, anything could happen.
Yeah.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
I made it more complicated than it needed to be.
You got the point though.
Yeah. To sort of bring this to a close, I don't know how I guess I should frame this, but just what's your opinion on the state of the world we live in, and the reason, in the sense that, do you think people need God more?
People do need God more.
Okay.
I would say. Like the situation of this planet right now, it's been rough. I mean, they have, like, mankind have gone through a lot of things.
Yeah.
And
the dark ages of
the dark ages, the good ages, everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't consider there is more to it.
Yeah.
They don't think in the deeper level, like they don't broaden up their mindset about like even seeking God.
Yeah.
Or like even knowing that there is like a supernatural being other than the humans.
Yeah.
That created us and everything.
Yeah.
But I would say, God, definitely the mankind needs God more than ever. And especially in this, like, I would not say like dark times, but like in
challenging times.
Challenging times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in every situation, you need God. If God is not there, what you're just like a mortal being who will be dead after, like,
directionless in a way.
Yeah, directionless, purposeless. And you're just living the 9-to-5 job, doing everything for your kids or like anything. Like if you're a student, you're just doing it for your future. But what's more to it? Like there's more to life than just that. Right. Yeah.
I was gonna just jump in and say, like, doing things for your kids, for example. Like, I mean, neither of us have kids, but if I had to imagine in this case, and if I'm ever blessed to have kids, I think in some sense having kids is also like a huge service, right? Because you're bringing life into this world.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of like after you bring that life into it, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication, and in some sense that becomes people's purpose, is to take care of their family and to take care of their kids and get them to a point where their bellies are full and they have no struggles, which, I mean, everybody has struggles at the end of the day. I think sometimes you have to realize that, like, I think as parents, people have to realize that as parents. You can't necessarily take the struggles away from your child's life. But you can make them control. Right, but you can make them stronger. To be able to deal with those challenges. The other thing I will say, when you kind of to sort of latch onto this thought a little further, it's sort of a thought I've had a lot lately. I thought of a political example, but I'm not going to use it since we talked about not wanting to talk about politics. But okay, I can use it this way. Where we are, like the two of us, or many people like us in our lives currently, in some sense, we are privileged to be able to have these experiences. And the reason why I say that is because people who have it much harder than us, they don't really have the time to be able to sit and think of all this. Because for them, in those moments, it's just about the next thing, right? Be it people in a war-torn country or so on. For them, it's just a matter of survival. It's just a matter of that. Right? Sure, they might have faith in God. It's like, God protect me from what's happening around here. But thinking about it from a level of, how can I become a better person, get closer to God, and all of that kind of fluffy stuff, it's quite a privilege, right? Because if you think about it that way, we have our needs met. Generally speaking, like we have food to eat, we live under a roof, we have clothes to wear, our basic necessities are met in a lot of ways. So we can dedicate some energy towards thinking about those things and, I guess, developing more in a spiritual sense. Whereas if you're struggling to have your needs met and the general needs met, food, shelter, clothes, whatever else may be, you can't necessarily dedicate your energy to those things because you have to think about the now. You just have to. So all that to say, I think it's sort of a realization of realization of realizing that it's the same thing back to back, but realizing that we are quite privileged. And be grateful for it in a sense as well, because gratefulness is a huge part of, I guess, one's spiritual journey, because I think that also helps you realize that the negative experiences in some sense are character developing to get you closer to Him. And we all need some character development.
Definitely.
Sometimes you just need a tight slap across your face. Not literally, but
so wake up.
Wake up, metaphorically speaking, right? Metaphorically speaking, we all need that. And I think however you want to like use that as a metaphor, fall down, slap on the face, whatever.
Anything.
I was going to use another crass example. I won't use that. But
it could be a situation also.
Right.
Like a experience or a situation with anybody else in your life. Or anything could like bring you closer to God. It's not,
kind of to go back to what you said earlier.
Yeah, definitely. Because like in like the war zone countries, their one aspect is to just survive and survive. There's survival mode like 24/7. But like in that situation too, God can reach out to them.
Absolutely.
And still they can be like be more spiritual than ever. Like before like the war zone like situation and times, they would not like even bother to even seek God. But after that situation, they could have like seek God more than ever.
I see what you mean. Yes. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I think people can misconstrue what you said over there in the sense of, like if they didn't pray to God, if they did pray to God, that wouldn't happen. That's not what you mean. What you're sort of seeing is that can be a redirection for them in a sense. And again, like, that is a very challenging conversation to have with people, generally speaking, because people can take that the wrong way. I understand. I'm not saying that what you said was wrong, but I understand where you're coming from. But I think that can be easily misconstrued.
It can be,
because I think because of where we might be in our journeys, that realization of the sort of subtleties is quite different. So when you say that, it can be taken the wrong way, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wanting to make sure. No, you're good. You didn't say anything wrong. I just want to make sure I clarified that so that it's not taken the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because nobody is necessarily saying that you need to have shit like that happen to you to be able to get to God. It's more like saying that it's. I just thought of another example in the sense that it sucks that it happens that way, but it's getting you there. So it's sort of like an acceptance of the fact that that got you there.
Yeah, it can be like that too. It can be like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, any sort of closing thoughts or anything you'd like to say before we bring this to a close?
Oh, no, it was good talking to you.
I appreciate that. Likewise.
Yeah, because I've never openly talked about this that much. I would say I did, but not really. So it was good alignment for the day and for the week.
I'm glad, and thank you. I appreciate the fact that we're able to have these conversations.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for being open to it.
Of course. I mean, it is a privilege to even have those conversations.
Absolutely.
Because in other countries too, we cannot have these conversations openly and directly.
That too.
So it is a privilege. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Angela, for coming on and having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, for those of you watching and listening, thank you so much. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. You can comment on Spotify too now, actually, if you use Spotify. I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, use Spotify. You can watch this as a video podcast on Spotify as well. So yeah, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you choose to listen to your platform or podcast rather. Follow the podcast. But yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.